Howdy, soldiers. They have been power washing something outside of my apartment for like 3 whole hours. So finally I just said, fuck it, I'm giving up. We're filming the video. I'm gonna hold my mic instead, and you guys are just gonna get some really good audio this week. How long does it take to freaking power wash something? I know that makes me sound very bourgeois, like, how much could a banana cost, Michael? $10? But I haven't found myself in a situation where I've needed to power wash my bookshelves in the last little while, so I don't know, cut me some slack. Also, welcome to freaking summer. In last week's video, I was wearing a sweater, and now I'm in a linen tank top because Vancouver is going through a heat wave. So everyone grab your water. We're gonna stay hydrated during today's video. Hello, everybody. I hope you've been doing well. April has been a very packed month for me. Lots to discuss with my therapist. Yet somehow in these last 30 days, I managed to read 7 books, and on April's roster, I have some big names, I have some wild cards, and I have a Sapphic disappointment. So without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, and buckle in as we go over these 7 books that I managed to read in April. So first up is a book I had to import from the UK. R.I.P. Book Depository. That's a moment of silence. All of my UK book blogger friends were hyping this book to high hell, and I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm feeling left out. I will wait the time it's gonna take for this to get on a plane and come over to Canada and then hop on a moose and get to the post office where a concierge of 6 Canada geese wraps this in maple leaves and finally delivers it to me on the West Coast, like however long it takes for them to fly, as the wind blows. I don't know. But hot damn, God Killer by Hannah Kanner was absolutely worth the wait. This is my new fantasy obsession. Look at this cover. It's shiny and has a fucked up deer. Oh, I love a good fucked up deer. This is the start of a new fantasy series that is like The Witcher meets Throne of Glass. Our main character, Kissin, is a god killer, but one day she finds that there is a certain god she cannot kill, and she has to escort the young noble that this god has bonded itself to the now dead god city in hopes of breaking that bond. But an ex-knight on his own quest joins them, and the 3 of them go to the fallen city of Blenraden to ask the final living gods a favor. Whenever I'm reading a book, I usually have my notes app open on my phone so that I can take notes, for when I do these videos. And I didn't take a single note for 175 pages because I was so riveted. This is full of god lore and political machinations and characters that bite back. Also, incredible disability rep that I've never seen in a fantasy series. Our main assassin, Kissin, is an amputee. She only has 1 leg, and because of that, she has major chronic pain. And Ello is an ex-knight who has PTSD that causes tremors and panic attacks. Plus, we have some other side characters that are deaf and multiple wheelchair users. I easily fell in love with all of these characters. Like, Kissin is the reason swear jars exist. I love her so much. But then also Inara has such a good character arc, and she just becomes so much more empathetic and resourceful as she grows. The new ways clashing with the old ways, but then also how people in both camps can find camaraderie together. She manages to pack all of this world building and empathetic character development in less than 300 pages. I loved this book, and I will absolutely be reading the sequel. Secondly, it was an interesting surprise, and that is that every year, the Canada Broadcasting Company, the CBC, holds Canada Reads, which is like a competition where they pick 5 judges who are either famous or influential in Canada in some way, and they each champion a book by a Canadian author. And then over an extreme elimination round that usually lasts 4 to 5 days, finally, the final book standing is the one book that is named the #1 book that all Canadians must read. And this year, CBC reached out to your girl and asked if we could collab on a video where they would send me the 5 shortlist titles. And I was like, oh my god, the CBC knows who I am. And I'm very happy to say that the winner of the 2023 CBC Canada Reads was Ducks by Kate Beaton. I also work in publishing and book distribution, and for the last couple of months, my company would not shut the fuck up about how much they loved this book. And so I was like, all right, you know what? Fine. I will give it a shot. This is a graphic novel memoir about a woman writing about her time working in the Albertan oil sands. And I was like, that is literally the exact opposite of everything that I would voluntarily read on a regular basis. But then after finishing it, I was like, oh damn. Maybe sometimes people in my company are right. So like I said, this is a graphic novel memoir for Kate Beaton, who is also the author of the Hark a Vagrant series. And in this graphic novel, she documents the time that she spent working the Albertan oil fields. So as much as you can say, haha, there's references to Tim Hortons and Shoppers Drug Mart, how Canadian? This is a deep and raw look into the isolation of these communities. She talks about the cycles that people get into working there and being unable to quit because of the money. She talks about how the attitudes of people in these kind of bubble camps change change because they know that this is a space that is not real life. And she talks about the harassment and assault that women in these jobs face on a daily basis, as well as how hard it is to rehabilitate yourself back into regular society once you've left the camps. And if you've heard some of the numbers that I have heard while listening in on sales calls about this book, I really hope this means that there will be more eyes and ears on the issues that people in the fields go through. And hopefully that will lead to some kind of change. We can only hope. So yeah, this was definitely not like anything I would ever pick up for myself, but I'm really glad that I read it. Thirdly is a book that made my inner thespian very happy, and that was Tor sent me a copy of One for My Enemy by Olive E. Blake. Oh, hello, what is white balance? I'm too pale for this. This is a urban fantasy modern day retelling of Romeo and Juliet that centers on the Antonova sisters and the Fedorov brothers that are the children of opposing witch family mafias in Manhattan. And as somebody who did theater for many years and has an English degree, I have been embroiled in Shakespeare for a very long time. And I can honestly say this is one of the best retellings that I've ever read. Like, yes, it is Romeo and Juliet. It is enemies to lovers. It is these violent delights have violent ends. But the way that she writes it makes it so that story is applicable to multiple characters in the book. And everybody is so well developed, nobody is one note and static, and you get into everybody's head. So you're stuck there as a reader wondering, wait, who is the main character? Her writing is both poetic but also snappy, and she rides the line between vicious love and passionate hatred. Although I do question if it had to be this long, and the ending is definitely an ending that I think you'll either love or hate, but she is so good at writing romantic tension that I'm willing to excuse pretty much everything that I didn't like about this book. So if you follow me on Goodreads, my rating for this book is purely based on quotes and vibes. Never underestimate your opponent, love thy enemy, and be but mine. The next read that I had this month, I did not enjoy as much as I had hoped, because I had been seeing The Fiance farce by Alexandria Bellefleur online, and I was like, oh my god, fake dating, forced proximity, Saphics. Of course I'm gonna love that, and this fell so short for me. This follows Tansy, who is very single and runs her father's bookshop, and when people in her life start poking around her dating life, she makes up a partner based on a cover model of a romance novel. But then 6 months later, at her stepsister's wedding, that cover model walks into the room, and the jig is up. But as luck would have it, cover model Gemma also needs a fiance to trick her family into giving her her inheritance, so the two of them hatch a scheme, and are fake engaged, but also sort of falling in love along the way. This whole book is wish fulfillment and not much else. And, I like a book like that every once in a while, but the writing was so Wattpad that it really took me out of it. Like, for example, Tansy is supposed to be this, innocent wallflower who wears cardigans, but then sometimes she's like, oh, actually, I read smut and walk around in vintage lingerie. But, oh, what's an innuendo? And I'm like, what are you? You have to pick a side. Most of the side characters were incredibly one-dimensional, and the people that changed did it in a snap decision 180 with no build up or development at all. And this kind of do revenge plot line had so much potential, but then it just fell so flat, because I'm the thing that they do to get back at this guy who ruined Tansy's life is oh, we plant some glitter in his car, haha, and I'm that's not equal at all. It was both too long and not long enough, and the dialogue was very stilted and very dramatic, which, hey, I don't mind some drama now and then, but you two are supposed to be in your 30s, so I don't believe it. I'm so sad about this book, because I'm just I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. So thank you to William Morrow and Avon for sending me this book, but this was a no from me, dog. When you look at a book and you're just damn, that's gonna be a good book. Well, I have done it. I have prophesied. I am Nostradamus, because The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten is now one of my new favorite books, and I freaking knew it. Look at this damn cover. As a huge fan of her For the Wolf duology, I was ecstatic to get my hands on a copy of this book. And it just speaks to the black, deep, dark, rotted part of my heart and soul. This is the start of a new fantasy series that follows Lore, who is a smuggler with death magic. But when her magic is revealed, she is forcibly conscripted to help the king figure out why cities on the edge of the country keep dying, and she is joined by a monk who also has a death magic of his own. So while exploring the seedy underbelly of the city and exploring her own death magic, she meets the Prince of the Sainted Throne, and the three of them end up being this power trio that all hate each other but have to work together when it turns out that maybe something sinister is hiding in the catacombs beneath the city. This book is a prime example of tell me you have religious trauma without telling me you have religious trauma. Hannah Whitten built an amazing Christianity-esque but still pantheonic religion and a powerful and zealous church built on the death magic of old gods. The Sun Prince Bastion is so annoying and I love him, and Gabe, our Presque-Mort death monk, is so grumpy and I love him. This is a true love V, and I love that. I have not read a good one of those in a very long time, and it really deep dives into how messy and complicated connections between people can be. Were some of the side characters and plot lines a little basic? Yes, but also did we follow some complicated, messy, magical people through a series of emotions and a variety of hidden chambers? Yes. And after that heart-pounding ending, Hannah Whitten, I'm gonna need that sequel on my desk by Monday morning. So thank you, Orbit, for sending this to me, but do be warned, you have unleashed a monster, and I will be harassing your PR department for the sequel of this. I am truly at a crossroads at this moment, because I was going to do Let's Save the Best for Last, but the last two books I have to talk about were both 5-star reads. Okay, well, fate has said that the one on top is the one that I'm gonna pick, so we are first going to talk about my wild card of the month. In keeping with the themes of books I love to read, not surprising. In keeping with the theme of length of books I like to read, bamboozling. And yet, folks, I have found one of my new favorite stories, and that is The Salt Grows Heavy by Cassandra Khaw. Like I mentioned before, I take notes when I read, and I have one note for this book in my notes app, and it's just, what the fuck? Tor sent me this wonderfully whimsical and macabre horror novella that follows a mermaid, a plague doctor, and a strange village within a sinister forest. Frankenstein meets Lord of the Flies and the worst possible mermaid scenario, but make it fairy tale at the end of the apocalypse. Like, it's a horror fantasy sci-fi mashup that I was not expecting, and I was not expecting anything that happened in this, and I loved it so much. Their writing is perfect for somebody like me who has a dark, black, rotted heart and loves that kind of purple prose, overly metaphorical, like overly whimsical type of writing. Immaculate word choice for keeping the reader disturbed the entire time. It is equal parts dreadful and fantastical and romantic, and I have never read a single thing like this before, and I love it so much. So if you're weird like me, I definitely would recommend this. Oh god, we just knocked the whole book pile over. And lastly is the book that made me believe in love again. This was another book that as soon as I started reading it, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good one. And I was correct. And I love being correct. Because Wednesday Books sent me a copy of Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. And this, I can confidently say, is one of the most beautiful books that I have ever read. This is an older YA/new adult 1910s-ish story that asks, what if World War I was fought against gods instead? It is a story of words and grief and hope between one Miss Iris Winnow and one Mr. Roman C. Kitt. This follows rival columnists Iris and Roman as the two of them compete for a position on their city newspaper, but when Iris has the chance to visit the front lines and report for a rival paper in hopes of finding her missing brother, she takes it and leaves Rowan behind. But unbeknownst to her, they have a magical connection through their typewriters that allow them to send letters back and forth to one another through magic. But eventually the two of them end up at a city near the front lines, and they find out what a god war looks like and how far they're willing to go for their city, their gods, and each other. This is the horror of war and the desperation of the faithful. It is utterly romantic and it is atmospheric as hell. There are so many beautiful quotes in this that like I tabbed so many pages. I was having feelings, I was having emotions, and I was so invested in this that I started crying in a coffee shop. This made an impression on my very soul. It is a love letter to writing and words and grief and hope, and it was just so beautiful. And Roman C. Kit is giving Will Herondale a run for his money. Good Lord. My standards have been upped once again by fictional men. And that is that on that. They are literally still power washing outside. I don't know what they're doing. Like, are they doing my whole building or something? I mean, as long as I don't have to pay for it, but like, what the heck, guys? Those were my reads of April 2023. Please leave down below if you yourself have read any of these and want to fangirl, or what you read this month and if you liked it or not. April was a great reading month. I am very happy with all the things that I consumed, save for one. And there are so many books coming out in May that I'm excited about. So I feel like May's wrap up is going to be equally, if not more, hefty than this one. My camera's already overheated 3 times filming this video, so I guess spring is just gone. It's like, hello summer. Oh man, it's like balmy in my apartment now. Like, I'm gonna have to pull all my tank tops out of storage. I'm gonna have to go to the store to stock up on sunscreen. And see, I told you I'd be back in front of my bookshelf soon. Although even today I actually wanted to sit down on my couch because I got a leg tattoo the other day and my shin is not happy. But you know what? I did it for you. But I think I'm gonna sit on my couch while editing this video. And if I remember correctly, I have a small pint of ice cream in my freezer. So I think I'm gonna go and smash that before getting started on this. You know where to click to like the video. You know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!